Just imagine, for a second, that the center of your world, an empire that had stood for more than 1,000 years, is just gone. For the people living in 410 AD, this wasn't just some political mess. It was an existential crisis. As St. Jerome put it back then, it literally felt like the entire world perished in a single city.
But you know what? Out of all that chaos came one of the most influential books ever written. And it wasn't just a reaction, it was a roadmap. Today, we're diving into Augustine's City of God, a blueprint, really, for how to rebuild a broken world from the ground up. Okay, so to really get this book, we've got to go back. We have to feel the shock that led to it being written. What was it actually like to see the eternal city finally fall?
Think about this number for a second. 1,163 years. Rome had been around for longer than the entire stretch of history from its fall all the way to us, right now. This wasn't just an empire. To them, it was a permanent part of the world, what their poet Virgil called an empire without end. Its collapse was, quite literally, unimaginable.
And this slide really gets to the heart of that psychological whiplash. On the left, you've got their self-image, eternal, invincible. On the right, the brutal reality of 410 AD, chaos, humiliation. The fall of Rome wasn't just a military loss, it was a crisis of meaning that shook their entire reality.
And you know how it goes. When things fall apart, the first thing people do is look for someone to blame. And the finger pointed right at the Christians. The argument was pretty simple. Rome had turned its back on the old gods, the ones who had protected it for 1,000 years, and this new religion had made the empire weak and vulnerable.
Well, that's a huge accusation, and it demanded an answer. And the man who stepped up to give that answer was Augustine of Hippo.
Now, Augustine wasn't some monk writing from a secluded tower. Just look at his journey. This guy was a Roman insider, a star professor right in the imperial capital. But he also saw the collapse up close. He actually died while invaders were laying siege to his own city. He didn't just write about this crisis, he lived and breathed it.
So, right off the bat, let's clear up some stuff you might have heard about this guy. Augustine often gets painted as this super grim figure who hated the physical world. But that's really just a caricature. The real Augustine, the one who wrote The City of God, was way more complex. A thinker who actually argued for the goodness of the world and the importance of human community.
So, how does a mind like that respond to the biggest crisis of his time? Well, not with some angry pamphlet. No, he started an act of civilizational reconstruction, using nothing but words. And just look at the scale of this thing. He spent 15 years writing it. It's over 1,000 pages long. It's actually the longest coherent work to survive from the ancient world. Even Augustine himself called it a work great and arduous, which, coming from a guy like Augustine, is a huge understatement.
So how do you even tackle a project this big? Well, he had this brilliant two-part strategy. First, the defense. This is where he masterfully takes Rome's own philosophers, their own historians, and uses them to take apart the pagan arguments. Then, after he's cleared the ground, comes part two, the vision. This is where he builds something totally new, a whole Christian worldview to make sense of everything, history, society, life itself.
But here's something that'll really make you think. For a book that was supposedly written to argue against the pagans, the word pagan shows up only 7 times. 7 times in the entire 1,000-page book. Right there, that tells you everything. His goal was way, way bigger than just winning a debate.
And that gets us to his real goal, which wasn't just about winning an argument. No, it was about transformation. It was about changing how we see everything.
You see, Augustine knew you can't just throw facts at someone to get them to change their whole worldview. His aim was much deeper. As one scholar puts it, what his audience needed was not just information, but transformation, not simply to be convinced, but to be converted.
There's a name for this method. It's called a conversionist strategy. The point isn't to just tear down all the old Roman ideas and start from scratch. Instead, he transforms them from the inside out. He shows how a new truth can actually grow out of the best parts of the old. It's all about building on the past, not just wiping it away.
And this is where we get to the absolute core of the book, this powerful central idea. For Augustine, destruction is never the end of the story. God takes the rubble from fallen empires, Babel, Athens, even Rome, and uses those broken stones to build something new, something eternal. So the fall of Rome wasn't just a random tragedy, it was the raw material for the city of God.
Okay, so that was all 1,600 years ago, right? Ancient history. But the reason we're talking about this book now is because it fundamentally shaped the world we all live in today, in ways we probably don't even realize.
You know that idea we have that history is a straight line, that it's all moving towards some kind of purpose? That's Augustine. What about core values we just take for granted now, like the inherent dignity of every single person? That was a totally revolutionary idea in a world built on hierarchy, and it was forged in his thinking. His world, which was full of different beliefs and anxieties, has some pretty powerful lessons for ours. Honestly, to understand the deep foundations of the modern West, you have to understand Augustine.
So Augustine looked at the smoking ruins of his entire world, and he didn't see an ending. He saw a beginning. He saw the raw materials for something new. And that really leaves us with a question for our own time, doesn't it? What parts of our world, the parts that feel like they're breaking or falling apart, might just be the building blocks for whatever's coming next?